Hey, solos. So you are going to Walt Disney World all by yourself, and you have a few questions. Where might you get the answers to those questions? Well, solo spoiler, you can get it on the number one podcast for solo travel to Disney World, now in its third year, and now in its 100th episode. 100th episode, due to the official numbering system, but unofficially, it's like the 155th episode. And I am obviously totally cool with the fact that the numbering system is off. Hi, everyone. It's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do. And welcome to Disney Solo Magic, the number one podcast for solo travel to Disney World. So, where have I been? That is an excellent, excellent question. So, on the Wednesday before last week's episode that didn't come out, it was Canada Day. I opened up my laptop after fireworks, and I go to resume editing this episode, and my computer would not turn on. What? What? What do you mean it's not turning on? And then it doesn't turn on, and it doesn't turn on, and it doesn't turn on. And I said that I did it after fireworks because oftentimes I will edit episodes late into Wednesday night because I'm a night owl, and that's when nobody's bugging me at night, and it's easy for me to focus. So did I save it to the last minute? Yeah, but also no, because that's kind of my routine. And so I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get on my computer. It was so weird and definitely panic inducing. And all the next day, I'm doing an edit in my brain or an audit in my brain of everything that was on the laptop and okay, this is backed up. I don't need to worry about that. And then what about this? And then I would think about where it is. Okay, well, maybe I can find that on, all of that stuff. But then I also started realizing that, especially with the podcast stuff, it's not even that, the files themselves, but I don't know the passwords to the websites that I use to edit the episodes or to upload the episodes. And not only do I not know the passwords, I don't even know which email address that I used. And so I was going through this whole panic thing, and a friend of the family, he was like, let me take a look at it. Don't buy a new laptop. And I was like, but it's just going around and around and around. Nothing is happening. And he's like, let me take a look at it. So our, Independence Day, American July 4th was the Saturday, Canada Day was on Wednesday, and so it was this weird blend of both having, 5 days off, but also not. So I don't think when did he look at it? I think he looked at it on Friday. It took him 12 hours, and he did get it going, and then it was, the weekend, and then, family stuff on the weekend that, was an echo from Canada Day. And then by the time I actually got onto my laptop, I got onto the websites, nothing got lost except the file that I was working on for this particular episode got corrupted. Well, that's not entirely true. I have a lot of complaints about the particular editor that I use, the editing software that I use, but it's the best one of all the ones that I've tried, despite it being terrible. And what happened was all the cuts that I made in the last time I recorded and then edited the episode, it just was one big thing. So rather than be a long a long audio file. All of a sudden, it was this big block of overlapping audio, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to record it again, and rather than rush and get something out for Monday or Tuesday or whatever, I'll just record it, re-record the whole thing, and put it up on Thursday, because I've been looking forward to this episode. This episode, I'm answering all your questions, the ones that you submitted to me online, and then a couple that came through DMs. And then what was really funny was that this past weekend, I had a couple of family friends actually ask me some questions about Disney, and I thought these answers could probably work for the podcast too. So, with that being said, in this episode, I'm going to answer a few of your questions, and I have done this before, but sometimes when I re-record episodes, it's kind of more fun the second time around. So, hopefully, It's more fun the second time around. All right. Well, all the social media, if you have been following my Instagram in particular, but also Threads and Facebook, you may have saw that I had posted that my laptop broke and I didn't know when the episode would go back up. So hopefully you didn't panic too much and it didn't throw off your schedule. I kind of also assumed that people, because it happened around the long weekends, I kind of assumed people thought that I like took a break around, July 4th or Canada Day or whatever. So hopefully that worked in my favor too. So anyway, all the social media, Patreon, thank you so much for those of you who pledge Patreon and become Patreon members. I have booked, so I have a trip to Disney coming up at the end of August. It's not a solo trip, it's with my mom for her 75th birthday, but I just booked a trip at the end of October for Halloween, and I'm really excited about that. And I also realized that that is going to be like a big chunk of that. It's going to be kind of like podcast Patreon stuff. And I like that's just so cool that I get to experience things for you all at the parks because of Patreon. So please support the podcast by becoming a Patreon member. It's only $4 American, 5.50 Canadian, and you get reflections on all the episodes and all that stuff. And you support the podcast. You support the number one podcast for solo travel to Disney World. I also have something very exciting that I've been working on that's like podcast adjacent, which I'm like really looking forward to kind of getting out there in the world. But I feel like I need a couple, anyway, when it comes, and there'll be some like kind of bonus things on Patreon for that too, if you are into it. I think that's all the preamble. Oh, please. So this is the 100th episode, 155th. This is the 100th episode. Please help us grow. Every time I say this, I do a particular plea. I always see the numbers jump and I really appreciate that. Please please rate, please review, please make a comment in your review on Apple. That would be so, so wonderful. It really helps the algorithm move this around to the people who might be interested in it. So please provide 5 stars if you are into that, and leave a note that said your favorite solo tip that you've heard on the podcast. That would be really, really great. And also please share on your social media. You can say if you liked an episode, or just let people know about the podcast, or just text it to somebody in case they are interested. And with all of the interviews that I've done and that are coming up and things like that, I've worked really hard trying to have kind of a diverse range of solo experiences. As I said, I think in April, there's definitely more experiences I would like to cover. And so the more people know about the podcast, the more I'm able to catch people in all their different experiences. And that's really cool. So rate, review, subscribe, and share. All right, let's get into it. All right, all right, all right. So thank you so much to all the people who submitted questions. It was really cool. And it was really cool to read your little stories as well. Yeah, I just thought that was really cool. It's hard with a podcast when I'm doing public speaking and I'm, running workshops and things like that, not related to Disney, but just in general. It's easy to understand the community that is being built through the information that's being shared. But it's harder with a podcast because I can't see you all. I'm here with my cats, just recording things, and hopefully it lands somewhere. So I really appreciate when you share your stories with me, and thank you so much. So I have a few questions and then a few other ones came. So question number 1. My job is incredibly demanding, and I feel like I'm constantly carrying everybody's stress. People tell me to take a beach vacation, but honestly, that sounds boring. I feel like Disney can be a relaxing vacation, but it doesn't seem that way if you look on social media. Can a solo Disney trip be relaxing? Okay, that's a great question. Um, so I think it can be. So number 1, I think this is a popular quote, "A change is as good as a rest," right? And sometimes the actual resting of it, your nervous system can't actually process that if you are constantly going. And so having a change can support that. And I actually find my Disney vacations, solo vacations, so relaxing because it's me and I'm making decisions for me. And yes, I know that when you are following a lot of content creators, hopefully not yours truly, when you're following a lot of content creators, there can be just so much pressure about reservations and lightning lanes and strategies and route drop and all that stuff. And like, yeah, if you are really ride focused and you definitely can kinda get caught up in all of that, but by and large, like, when you're going solo, I don't think you need to be so what's what I'm looking for? Really I don't think you need to pay attention to the reservation window as much as if you were trying to book a table for 5 or a table of 6, right? We've talked a lot in this podcast about lounges and walk-ups and things like that. I think we just did an episode about that, right? And so you can do a lot of those things without the rush of it. And also, there's single rider lines, which is great to take advantage of. And like, I'm not really ride focused, but I'll do lightning lanes, or I will do the individual lightning lanes for like Guardians of the Galaxy, which is one of my favorite rides. But I don't get swept up in all of those other tips that you hear from everybody else because those can be really useful again when you're like managing a whole family. But what I've heard from people on this podcast and just like on social media as well aren't no, who aren't content creators necessarily, but who go to Disney, especially solo, is that because so much is taken care of for you. And by that, I mean it is so guest centric. Cast members are excellent. It's meant to be about a visitor and a guest experience and things like that. That it is easier for your brain to like switch off being on alert and you can kind of relax into the fun of it all. Now, obviously, too, when you are going solo, you can create your schedule in the way that works best for you. And so if you want to go, 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 then you're able to. But maybe you're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to rope drop and I'm going to go to the end of the day and I'm going to do all of this stuff. And then it's like 10 in the morning and you're like, wow, I've already done a lot. And like the heat's a lot. And like, what am I pushing so hard for? Like, feel free to change like, to listen to yourself, right? And that's what you can do on a solo vacation, to listen to yourself and be like, "I'm just gonna go back to the hotel. I'm gonna go swim for an hour. I'm gonna just, like, eat lunch at the hotel. I'm gonna go for a walk, and then I'll come back in this evening. I don't need to go, all out." And I think that it's those types of things, like, it is listening to yourself, going with your own schedule and your own routine, and, like, knowing that if you wanted to do it all and all the rides and all the lightning lanes and all that stuff, that, yeah, that can be full of pressure, but, like, you need to know that, like, that is part of the trip, and it is okay to be like, "Oh, I don't wanna do this part now." You know what I mean? So, hopefully that helps, but, yeah, like, I I go to Disney to relax for sure, but then when I come home and I'm, like, thinking about everything that I did, like, there's nothing relaxing about what I did, but what's relaxing is that my nervous system didn't have to be on guard. And even though there's the dining reservations and the lightning lanes and this and the that, my nervous system didn't need to be on guard. I didn't need to be vigilant, and that is what makes it relaxing. And so I hope you can find space in that for you as well. Okay, the next question. I'm 42 and I've never traveled alone before. My husband hates theme parks. My friends all have teenagers with hockey schedules. Oh my God, I was just talking about hockey today. And I keep waiting for the right person or the right time to go with. But I've been obsessed with Disney since I was a kid and considering going by myself. But it feels weird when I think about the whole day. What do people do at night? Would it be empowering or would I end up crying in my hotel room after spending all that money? Oh my gosh. Okay, number 1, stop waiting for other people. Like, when I was partnered, he was such a downer in terms of, like, Disney in particular, but just, like, fun things, and it's so easy to just, like, keep waiting for the right person and the right person and the right person because it could like, the right person could be a friend, right? Or a cousin or this or that. But, yeah, no, I totally get that. So you're saying a couple things. Number 1, And I talked about this in the Haunted Mansion episode. Like, when I have felt grief being there alone, it's because it's like acknowledging that things in my life weren't the way that I wanted them to be. It wasn't because I was alone. It was because being alone in this magical place, I was able to like touch a part of like who I was that I couldn't access in my normal life. And then I had grief about the things that I was like essentially hiding, right? Like, being in a job that wasn't the right fit or being in a relationship that wasn't the right fit. So your husband could be great, or your husband who hates theme parks might like, you might have a lot of feels about why he's not there. And so I don't think you're going to be, well, I don't know what your life is. So it's hard to know like what will come out on the trip. But I think you were gonna have a great time because so many people have a great time, and I think you'll feel a huge freedom in not waiting. And you asked, like, what do people do at night? So let me focus in on that. And also, I really encourage you to like listen to a lot of the other solo stories, and we talk about those types of things. And that sadness of being alone in a hotel room at night, like, never comes up because people, not that, like, those feelings and those fears aren't valid, but because, like, that isn't what people's experiences are once they're there. Some people, for sure. Some people, for sure. Yes, definitely, but, like, by and large, not. But let's talk about what solo people do at night. So you didn't identify your gender in this, but you said you had a husband. I'm going to just assume that you're a woman. Maybe you're not, but that's okay. What I want to start by saying, why I want to start by making that assumption as also as a woman. There are times when I've traveled alone and I definitely want to be back in my hotel room like, before it gets dark. I do not wanna be out and about, and, we're just gonna like, especially when I'm in America, I just watch, like, Turner Classic Movies, and that's pretty great because I don't have cable or Turner Classic Movies here in Canada. So, yeah, but when I'm at Disney, I don't worry about that at all, and that's why I started by saying I don't know your gender, but, like, if you're worried about being a woman out at night, at Disney, don't be. Don't be, generally. Now, I have talked to some people through the solo stories, a lot of them locals. So they've like driven to places like hotels or to Disney Springs, and it's like late, like after midnight, you know, people have already had some booze, stuff like that, where they have felt kind of like weirdness, but like kind of flags, but not as much flags if you were just doing something normal. So first, I would like put it out of your brain. If this was already in your brain, that you need to like be back in your hotel room before dusk, because otherwise it just isn't safe anymore. And so, yes, take that out of your brain. Now, as a night owl, I often will like think about the night as like this whole other chapter of the day. So here are some things that I do at night. Number one, this wouldn't be a surprise, I think, to people who have been longtime listeners of the podcast. I will go to a quiet pool if I can, if there is a quiet pool at my hotel. So if I'm staying at a moderate or well, I wouldn't be staying at a deluxe resort because I don't stay at deluxe resorts, but deluxe resorts have quiet pools too, some of them. If I'm staying at a hotel with a quiet pool, I'll often go and have a nice, like, quiet dip. Oh my gosh, a couple years ago, I was staying at Fort Wilderness in the cabins, and they have a quiet pool. I bet it's not so quiet now with DVC there. Anyway, that's a different story, and it was pouring rain, but not lightning, but pouring rain, and I drove the little golf cart over to the pool. Actually, it didn't start raining till after I got there, and I swam in this empty pool at, like, 10 PM at night in the rain, and it was just wonderful. So, you could go swimming at your hotel. You could also just explore your hotel depending on where you are. There's a lot of nice, like, walking trails and paths around, and you could explore. All the hotels have dining. They do have a bar, and if you're staying at a moderate, they have like an additional restaurant and bar. And if you're staying at a deluxe resort, they have quite a few restaurants, and so you can just, like, go and maybe have a drink and, maybe get something to eat, or some of the lounges have entertainment in the evening. Port Orleans French Quarter has a jazz bar at night, so you could go and explore just, like, your own hotel. You could also go and explore another hotel. So just a reminder, and I'll say this at the end, that there are some new transportation rules, but if you're already staying on Disney property, you don't really need to worry about that. People staying on Disney property can go around to the other hotels unencumbered. If you're not staying on Disney property, then there are some additional rules, and I'll talk about that a little bit at the end of the episode. So feel free to go and check out another hotel. Like I just said, Port Orleans French Quarter. If you're staying at Port Orleans Riverside, you can walk around Port Orleans Riverside. That's a huge hotel. It's very nice at night. You can walk over to Port Orleans French Quarter and go check out a beignet, go listen to the music, and then you can walk back. Like, that's a great way to spend a night. You can do the same at Boardwalk or Yacht Club or Beach Club. All those hotels are very close to each other, and that's a nice walk. You can also go to a hotel, and depending on which hotel, you can see the fireworks from different places at the hotel. So I talk a lot about going to Contemporary and going on the fire escapes to watch the Magic Kingdom fireworks. The last time I was there in the spring, I was able to see the Epcot fireworks from my table at the lounge at Topolino's Terrace. So go and make use of those things. Another thing you can do at night is go to Disney Springs. You can take the bus from your hotel to Disney Springs, walk around, go shopping, get something to eat, get a drink, and there's always live music. Now, Disney Springs is open to the public. And so on Friday and Saturday nights in particular, it can definitely feel a little rowdy, not a lot rowdy, but there's definitely like an an energy level that's a little bit elevated, and so if you're feeling uncomfortable about that, then, like, you can leave early, but it's always nice to, like, walk around Disney Springs. You can get a Dole Whip at Swirls on the Water, listen to some live music, and then take the bus home. Now, a lot of these, like, evening things that you can do sound really great on paper. Oh, a couple other things. On the boardwalk, like, the boardwalk is a hotel, but the boardwalk also has bars and restaurants, and they have a nightclub, like a dancing nightclub. So you can go and check that out. There's also called the Abracadab Bar, like abracadabra, but abracadab bar, and you can go and, like, have a drink there, like, there's cool things to do. So, I say all these cool things to do, but also so many people are so tired at the end of the day. They really, like, you might think, "Oh, I'm gonna have all this time at night. I have no idea what I'm gonna do." Most people just are so tired that they just get back to their hotel and flop. And so some people also, when they're going on solo vacations, they have a bit of a routine at the hotel at night. So maybe it's bringing a face mask from home. Maybe it's watching Mickey cartoons. Maybe it's getting a pizza from the quick service dining and just like eating it all yourself in bed. You can bring a book. You can do some journaling. And like maybe you want to do that in your hotel room. Maybe you want to do that like just out in the Florida air. So think about the possibilities because you're by yourself. And I really encourage you when you're there solo to just like kind of change it up. Like it's so easy just to like lay in bed and scroll. If you're going to do that at home, maybe at Disney, you do want to bring a book, or maybe you do want to try that face mask. So think about that. You're going to have a great time. Please, please let me know how it goes. Okay, question number 3. I'm from the UK and I'm going to be in Florida visiting with my family this fall, but none of them are interested in Disney. I could add a day at the end of the trip and go to Disney by myself, but is it worth it to do a one solo park day? Okay, great question. I like that you are saying that you're thinking of tacking a day at the end of your trip, because if you were thinking of tacking a day at the beginning of your trip and do a solo day at Disney, I mean, I would say do it, but I also would hesitate a little bit because of the time change. By the end of your trip, you'll already have been accustomed to Eastern Standard Time, and so you're not going to be bringing that extra exhaustion with you, because when you are buying tickets to go to the Walt Disney World Resort parks, the tickets get cheaper the more days you buy them. So if you're going for 14 days, the per ticket price is like I don't know, $20? That might not be true. No, it's definitely not true, but it's very inexpensive. But if you're going for 1 day, then the ticket price is like $200. And so you really need to be like, is this $200 worth it? And I think that if you can, like if you're traveling from the UK, you're coming so far that it's definitely worth it, I think, if that is something you want to do. Because I think there could be a lot of regret to be like, I was so close to Disney, but I didn't go because nobody else wanted to. So if you were just doing one solo day before you were going to get on an airplane and go back to rainy UK, then there are two ways you could do it. You could just go and do one park, or you could go and get a park hopper. A park hopper is usually about 50 to $60 more. Oh, I feel like my math is off with that, but it's a more expensive ticket, but you're able to hop to all the parks. And so maybe you want to do all 4 parks in 1 day, or you want to do 2 parks. And so that's going to be an additional cost than if you just go to 1 park, but maybe that's worth it. But here's the thing, like, Disney is really overwhelming, and if you're just coming for 1 day, you didn't say if you've been before, then it might feel too overwhelming to do all 4 parks in 1 day. And I actually am going to recommend that. I feel like if you are coming for 1 day, then you should just kind of revel and enjoy 1 park day. That would be my recommendation. I mean, I like my brain is fighting with itself because I'm also like, do Magic Kingdom and Epcot. And I guess you could do that as well, of course. But I don't know why. There's just something to me about the purity of spending 1 day at Magic Kingdom to be like, this is Disney. I am doing Disney. That's the quintessential Disney park. And don't worry about doing all the rides and eating all the foods. Like have a short list of like 3 rides you want to do. Have a short list of like 3 places you wanna eat or things you wanna eat, and just try to add those in because what happens is people ruin their trips, and I'm really thinking actually of families right now. People ruin their trips by just packing too much into it. And the thing about Disney is, just like I said with that first question, well, I didn't say this, but it's kind of in the same zone. The magic comes when you loosen up your grip on the time. Because what people say over and over and over again in all the solo stories is like their favorite thing about going solo is just taking it slow, people watching, choosing what you want to do. If you want to do Pirates of the Caribbean 4 times in a row, like you can do that. So I would just encourage you to do, if you're doing 1 day, to have a very short list of things you want to do, but really leave so much breathing room for magic. I just feel like if you are doing a solo trip and you don't see Cinderella Castle, if you're doing your first solo trip, your first trip to Disney, and you don't see Cinderella Castle, I just feel like you're missing the thing that is driving you to go already, if that makes sense. Please let me know if you decide to come. I just think it would be amazing. And maybe I'll be there too. I'm there at the end of October. You said the fall. Okay, question number 4? Is that what we're on? Ugh, gosh, man, numbers. Okay. Do you ever feel lonely when you're at Walt Disney World solo? Do you ever feel self-conscious doing rides or shows or dining alone? I'm going on my second Walt Disney World trip, and I feel a little nervous about doing it alone, even though I had a great time last time. Oh, I'm so glad that you are doing your second trip. Okay. Do I ever feel lonely when I'm there alone? Well, there are moments where I feel grief for not having people in my life to share particular experiences with, for sure. Like, oh, this would be so great if standing next to me was, uh, an X, Y, or Z person who would really love to experience this with me, right? For sure. And so there is that moment of grief. I wouldn't say that's loneliness because I would say I don't feel lonely at Disney because there are so many people around, and I really feel like when I'm at Disney, I feel like I'm part of a community, and so I don't feel lonely. And again, there could be some grief about doing things alone, but that's not the same thing as being lonely. And also that grief of doing things alone, I do an audit of the people in my family or people, my friends, for example, you know, that one person who said like, oh, all my friends have teenagers with hockey schedules. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't have children myself, but when my friends started having children in our 30s, I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I just won't, like, see you as much," right? Like, you just kinda get used to that. So, when I do an audit of my family and friends, I'm like, "There isn't really anyone to do this with me." So, if I was to do it with the people in my circle, then something would have to be sacrificed, right? Like, I would have to do it in a way that works for them and not me. And so the solution to that, those pangs of grief is just to widen my circle of people who I could experience that with. But when I'm at Walt Disney World, I look around and that circle is widened because there are people everywhere. And I know that I could very easily find somebody to do a ride with me. Like, it would be a little bit of work, but it wouldn't really be hard because everyone is there kind of, just being there together. I've told this story on the podcast before, but the first time I did a Disney thing by myself, it was a semi-solo trip. I was there with my mother. It was the evening though, and my mother had gone to bed and I was going back to Epcot to do one of the festivals. I can't remember what it is. And I started like joking with this family in line, and as the family like we were waiting for our food, and as the family was leaving, like the dad just turned around, and by dad I mean like he was um like 55 or 60, like, he felt dad-like to me, even though, like, people my age are also grandparents. He just kinda, like, turned around and said to me, like, "Are you coming with us?" Like, it was just so casual, and I was like, "Oh, no, 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 it's okay." And he's like, "Okay, see you later," like, it was so easy, and I don't regret not going with him, like, I was very happy to do it solo, but it was such a good reminder because I was like, "Okay, well, I'm kind of maybe I feel a little bit of shame, like I'm kind of hiding, all that stuff." And then it didn't feel weird for me to talk with them while I was there solo, and it didn't feel weird for me to join them. So I don't feel lonely because of how much there is to do at Disney, but I do acknowledge that there could be pangs of, and again, I think it's grief of not having somebody to do that with. And, I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I'm a godmother now, and I'm very close to my goddaughter who's a year old and her brother who's 5. 5 today, actually. Happy birthday to him. And I definitely, when I'm at Disney now, I definitely can see certain things that I'm like, it would be really cool to have them here and experience that. But I know that that's a different trip than my solo trips, and that I would need to take a solo trip like a week after a family trip. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question and also like acknowledges the larger kind of narrative around that idea of loneliness. And then you said, um, do I feel self-conscious doing rides, shows, or dining alone? So I'm quite used to dining alone. I know that a lot of people feel kind of weird about that. And one of the tips that I give people is to, like, start practicing at home. And, maybe it's because of COVID, but, like, people are so used to just getting, like, takeout food and eating in their cars now. Like, maybe you're eating in your car right now listening to this podcast. And, like, no judgment, no individual judgment, but I'm really worried about the individualization of culture right now and the way that eating alone in your car, like takeout food alone in your car is symptomatic of that. So it's like so weird. There's like a Wendy's that a family member and I pass when we're going to see some other families, and we'll often stop there. And inside the dining room, the restaurant is completely empty, but then you go into the parking lot and there's all these people eating in their cars. I just find it I just find it really weird, and I find it really sad too, because and I've also heard from teachers that in, like, cafeterias now, that a lot of the kids are on their phone and there isn't that, kind of noise and hubbub, and so there isn't as so I guess it just feels weirder eating alone in a restaurant now than maybe it has in the past because there is more of a culture of, like, such individualized eating. So, the tip all that to say is the tip that I was gonna give before you do a solo trip and you're worried about eating alone is to, like, eat alone at a restaurant. Like, it could be a fast food restaurant, like, to me, that is not super intimidating because it's not formal. You could go to a more, formal sit-down restaurant and just, like, practice it. And maybe you're bringing a book. I'm sure you have your phone with you, all that stuff. I really encourage people to this is gonna be another, like, mini non-judgmental rant, but I also really encourage people when they're at Disney in particular to well, I said this earlier on the episode, to, try to change some of the patterns that you default to. So, again, like, when you're eating in a restaurant, it's so easy to pull out your phone and just to scroll, and when you're at Disney, like, maybe take the opportunity to not scroll on your phone as much. Like, I just have such, like, full kind of immersive memories of sitting in the 2nd floor of Columbia Harbor House at Magic Kingdom and just, like, looking out the window and looking at all the families, and it's so easy to pull out your phone. It would let me try that again. It would be so easy to pull out my phone and just to have, like, a little dissociated moment by myself, and, like, sometimes you need that, and, like, that's totally cool, but to just kind of, like, practice what that might look like both in and out of the parks, you're and, like, think of it as an exercise, and you're building that courage, you're building that muscle. And here's the thing, like, how often have you gone to a restaurant and looked at somebody eating alone and thought, "Wow, what a loser?" Number 1, if you have, like, that's weird, like, maybe don't be so judgmental, and number 2, I bet you really haven't, because what you're gonna find is if you start thinking about how much you judge people doing things alone, you'll find actually that like, you're not actually thinking about them. In fact, at Disney, I found when I've told people I'm there alone, a lot of people are like, "Really? Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Oh my gosh, that sounds really awesome." And so I also kind of think of that. Sometimes in terms of riding alone, in a ride, the thing I don't like is if it's like a big family or there are a couple of big families around me, and then I feel like, their energy just takes up everything, and I don't have, like, people around me to, like, puff up our energy as well, and so like, that I don't like, I don't feel awkward doing it alone, but I feel like I'm at a disadvantage of doing it alone. So, that episode that I said, "Just ask," this is a great example of just asking, and if I feel like, "Oh, I'm gonna be with a really noisy family or whatever, I will just ask to sit in a different car or, like, take another ride vehicle, or sometimes at night, if it's really slow, I'll be like, "Can I have a vehicle to myself?" And then I just, like, think about how people could be jealous of me rather than, like, think judgmentally of me. I'm like, I'm I'm cool with that. But I think too, and I feel like maybe I should just do a whole episode thinking about those first couple trips where I was doing, like, solo trips to Disney where, again, like, my mom and I would, like, do a whole bunch of stuff during the day, and then she'd go to sleep, and then I would, come back out and do stuff myself. I was at Pirates of the Caribbean, and I was by myself, and, like, there was a woman who was also by herself. We were in the same ride vehicle. We didn't talk to each other. We both were quite, like, insular and insulated. We didn't even look at each other or whatever. But at the end of the ride, I was looking at the ride photo. And because I felt a little embarrassed and maybe even shameful about being there by myself, I really kept all of my energy like very close to the chest. So if you look at that picture, it also looks like I'm like sitting in a lecture at a library. Like, it, no expression, no fun, no nothing, just completely blank and just like, yeah. Like, don't look at me. I don't look at me. I'm here solo, but do not look at me. And then I look in the same ride photo at this woman who was in line with me, who was also there solo, and she knew exactly where the photo was going to be, and she had posed for it. And she looked like she was having, like, she posed for the photo, like a big peace sign, and made eye contact with the camera and all that stuff. And she just looked like she was having so much fun. And I looked at that photo and I thought, like, we're both there solo. One person, myself, is feeling kind of embarrassed about that and kind of shy about that. And one person, this other woman, shout out to her, is having a really great time. Like, whose experience is actually going to be better at the end of this? And that's when I was like, oh, this is actually awesome. Like, if I just embraced it, I'm going to have a better time. Like, who am I performing this shyness for? And that sounds a little harsh by saying I'm performing the shyness, but there is something about like actively dialing down certain elements of my personality on that trip because I was there again. I wanted to just sneak around with solo. And so it was like, yeah, like what am I gaining by being a smaller version, shyer version of myself on this solo trip? I'm literally gaining nothing. And so that was a huge, huge turning point for me and my solo trip. And think of that or a similar situation when you're on your solo trip. But have a great trip. And please let me know, not just to the person who asked this, but to others who are listening, what you have done to get over any sort of feelings of, shyness or embarrassment or even shame about being at Disney solo, because you get over it pretty fast, or you should at least. I think that's the goal. I'm thinking of taking a solo trip and wondering if it is better to use a travel agent. Have you ever used a travel agent for travel to Disney? What are the pros or cons for booking with a travel agent? Okay, that's a great question. So I've worked with a few travel, not worked with, I have interviewed a few travel agents for the podcast before, so you can go back through, like, none of them to promote their business necessarily, but you can go back through the different interviews, and I've linked all their business pages and their social media if you're interested in working with any of them. So generally, I do not use a travel agent to book my Disney trips. And the reason why is because personally, and I'm just like thinking this through because I want to get my words right. I feel like the last time I recorded this, I didn't quite say it the way I wanted it. Maybe I won't either. Because personally, I just want a little bit more flexibility. Now, those travel agents who are listening are going to jump on that and be like, wait, we can do that too. And yes, totally 100%. But for me, it's like you're asking someone else to like get involved with maybe like personal decisions. And I can like do that myself. Like by personal decisions, I mean like, well, if I do this hotel, then it'd be this type of trip. If I do that hotel, it'd be that type of trip. And I just don't want to like get somebody involved with that. But here's the thing. If you don't know that, then a travel agent is great. And so the benefits of booking with a travel agent is that they know the hotels, they can recommend hotels for you. If you say like, I want a real chill vibe, or I just want to save money, all that stuff, they can recommend the hotels for you. I have a lot of knowledge about Disney, and so I don't need anyone to make that particular like hotel recommendation for me. The other recommendations that they can make are things like dining reservations. And again, personally, I don't need anybody to provide those recommendations for me. But you might think that's really great. Like you might be like, it would be so wonderful to work with a travel agent who could say, you know what? This would be the best hotel for you. These are the dining reservations I recommend. Some travel agents will make those dining reservations for you. Some travel agents will even make lightning lane reservations for you. So to talk to the travel agent to see what is part of their booking when you go to book with them. And here's the thing, travel agents don't cost much. Like, you're not paying that much. You should not be paying for a travel agent. Maybe $50, maybe $100, but, like, I will book things through the Walt Disney World Company, and I'll book things through Expedia, and they like, when I book through Walt Disney World or when I book through Expedia, they make money. When you book through a travel agent, rather than give a fee to Expedia that you don't even see, that fee goes to the travel agents. So their fee is built into the price, but the price that you pay is the same price that you would pay if you booked on your own. It's just that the money of that, let's say you paid $100. Obviously, you're not. Let's say you paid $100. If you book it on your own, let's just say 200 of that $100. Oh my gosh, sorry. $20 of that $100 will go to the website that you booked your flights on. But if you work with a travel agent, then the $20 of that $100 will go to the travel agent. So the fees for travel agents aren't coming out of they're not added to what you're already paying. And so in that way, it is, for some people, it's like a no-brainer. Like, of course, I'm going to work with a travel agent. They know much more than me. This is their job. They have the time to look for these things, all of that stuff. The other thing that travel agents do is they know all the different promotions. And if a different promotion comes up, they can apply that promotion to your package to save you money. Now, here's the thing, you can also do that yourself. If you book a hotel, and this is a hack that I've said on the podcast before, let's say you book a hotel in January for the summer, and 3 months later in March, promotions come out for the dates that you booked. Well, you can apply that same promotion to your reservation. You just do that in the website. And then let's say 3 months after that, another promotion dropped. You can also see if that applies to your reservation. So you can go into your own reservation to see if that promotion applies to the room that you have. And I like doing that. I don't mind doing that. It's kind of fun for me. But you might think that that is a pain in the ass. And then in that case, working with a travel agent is really great because they're able to do that work for you. So I've worked with a travel agent, I would say maybe about 5 times. The first 2 times were when I was in my early 20s and I was going to Disney with a partner. And I would see these advertisements on the subway for Disney promotions. And I just thought that the only way to do that was through your travel agent. So I worked with the travel agent and we talked about different hotels and all that stuff. And, we couldn't afford the number one hotel that we wanted, but she recommended another one and she made some suggestions about how we could go and explore the other hotels. Like, it was so great to talk with a travel agent because we were such newbies to Disney. And then the second trip, it was my partner and I, and then also my mom and sister were coming. And so working with a travel agent again was really great because she was able to, just like help arrange certain things because we had the 2 rooms. So it was just great to have somebody with that knowledge. I've recently worked with a travel agent for our August trip. And that's because I wanted to book a different type of hotel, a different type of room, because we wanted to do club level. And originally we were at Animal Kingdom and we've moved to Coronado. And there were times when we were planning the trip where it was a much bigger trip where we were thinking we would get like a 2-bedroom villa and other people would come. And I just thought that because I mean, it's why the end result is that it's going to be a fairly straightforward trip, all things considered. But working with a travel agent allowed me, because of the possible complexities of the trip, to have somebody who could provide comparables in terms of the different rooms and the different room types and all that stuff, and I just really appreciated that level of having somebody do that thinking and tracking for me. But it didn't cost me anything more, so again, that was really great, and my travel agent that I worked with, she didn't book flights, so we had to book flights separately, which was totally fine, but again, it was like, "Okay, now there is still something that we have to look into. And then, a week before the dining reservation window was open, she sent an email being like, "Do you need any help with that?" And she was like, "I know you aren't really gonna need help, but, like, this is part of the service, so is there anything you have questions about, anything we can talk about?" And so that was again, it was nice to just have, like, somebody to chat with. So if you feel like some support with booking your trip is something that would be great for you, then a travel agent works well. And again, I really want to emphasize that it really doesn't cost you anything else. Like, again, it's like maybe an additional $50, maybe additional $100. In the grand scheme of things, it's not what you think. It's not like it's an extra 500 or $1,000. No, no, no. So that's the answer to the travel agent question. Oh, sorry. There are two other times I've used a travel agent. And those were for cruises. So I took a cruise like, I guess maybe 15 years ago. And then I took a cruise 4 years ago for my 40th birthday. And if I book, and the next time I go on a cruise, I'll book through a travel agent as well, because I just feel like there's like certain things on cruises that I just don't understand. Like, it's very weird to me that you can just, like, pick the number like, "Oh, I want room 4098." And I was like, "Ah, that's too much knowledge that people think I have." So working with a travel agent, they can be like, "Well, like, this side is better than that side, and this floor is better than that floor," like, all that stuff. So for cruises, I've done with travel agents because I don't have that level of knowledge. All right, next question. I've gone to Disney solo a few times, but I've never taken advantage of the free entry to the water park on the first day of your trip. Yes, that's a new perk. So they started that last year, that on the first day of your trip, if you're staying at a Walt Disney World resort property, you get into the water park or water parks in the summer. Both of them are open for free. And if you're staying at two different Walt Disney World resort, like if you were staying at All Stars for 2 nights and then you're going over to Boardwalk for 2 nights, both of those first nights you get into the water parks. I would like to go to the water park, but what do you do with your stuff that you can't take into the water with you? You don't just wanna leave it on a chair with no one there to keep an eye on it. I'd like to go to Blizzard Beach, but these practical things concern me. Okay, great question. So, number 1, in my brain, this is what I say to myself. No one wants to steal your stuff at Disney. No one wants to steal your stuff at Disney. Like, to me, that is just such a true thing to think about. And it's because, like, everyone has a cell phone. Everyone there either has money or has, like, debt maxed out. Like, nobody cares about my, like, dinky little thing. And so that helps a lot. So I've taken advantage of the free water park, and this is what I did because I, like, thought about it for so long ahead of time. Number 1, I got one of those cases that you could put your phone in and, like, hang around your neck, and it was waterproof and that you could also take photos still, like, you still had your phone with you. Then I wore an outfit that was basically like a bathing suit. So I wore a bikini top and then, like, bathing suit short bottoms, and then I wore a dress on top of that. Oh, and then I wore water shoes. So what I did was I took my dress off, I put it in this waterproof bag, and I just, like, left it in a bush. I just left it in a bush. I was like, "If anyone goes to steal this bag, like, all they're getting is this dress." So, there you go. And then I had my phone around my neck with the waterproof thing, and I was in the water, and I think I had a hat, and I just floated around for, like, an hour, and then I went and I got something to eat, and I got something to drink, and then I think I floated for another hour, and then I went back to this bush. There was my bag with my dress in it. So, I really, like, yeah, but I had thought about it and I didn't bring anything. The other thing is that the water parks all have lockers, and when I went for 1 day to Epcot, that 1 day in January, I used the lockers at Epcot for the first time, and what I found was that because I hadn't used them before, you can go in and out all day, and so the lockers at Epcot, again, this isn't responding to your like Blizzard Beach question, but what I found with the lockers was that it was less about bathing suits and more about, like, layers of clothing, right? Like, I needed a jacket later on and all that stuff. So I got, like, a larger locker, and I just used it as, like, a little base camp all day of putting things in and out. And so if you think you're gonna have a lot of stuff, then you could get a locker for the day as well when you're at the water parks. When I'm at pools by myself, I don't care. I really don't think that anyone's gonna take my phone. And I will often have a book with me, and so I will, if I'm going into the water or whatever, I just, like, put my phone in the pages of a book, or I'll put it in my bag, or I'll put a towel over it, but I've literally never seen anybody, like sniffing around my bag to get their phone. Like, everyone has phones. I'm just really not concerned about that. But the other thing is, like, I'm not carrying a full wallet with me. I have my Magic Band, and that's my charging privileges, and then I have my phone, and, like, that's really it. So part of it for me is also just not taking as much stuff. When I went in April, if people remember, I got a headache, like, I had a migraine for most of the trip, and then on the last day, I was, like, swimming in the pool all day, and I was trying to, like, work out my headache because it was really just, like, a full body tension, stress, everything, so I was doing a lot of, like, stretching in the pool, and so I got out of the pool because I was gonna meet somebody, actually, a friend I met through the podcast, and I bend down to put my shoes on, and I throw my back out. And so not only now do I have like this full like body headache essentially, now I've like thrown my back out like I couldn't walk. I was like shuffling around and I had all my stuff there. I had my bag with my change of clothes and my book and a water bottle and a snack and all that stuff. And I was like, I can't carry this while like walking over to meet the friend. Like my back hurts too much. So I left it there for like an hour. I kept my phone with me, but I left all my stuff there for an hour and, like, nobody touched it. Nobody touched it. I've left my phone in a bathroom at Animal Kingdom Lodge. This woman came out of the bathroom and just handed me my phone. I left my phone at Disney Springs at World of Disney, like, on a shelf, and within 10 minutes, somebody had returned it to a cast member. Like, I'm really just not concerned about theft. I'm sure it happens, but I don't take a lot of stuff, and generally, I'm not worried about it. Okay, so those were all the submitted questions. And then this past weekend, I had two friends and family members that asked a couple other questions. So while sitting around the barbecue this weekend, my cousin's wife leaned over to me and she said, "What's happening at Disney Springs? Because everyone is super stressed out about it. Like, what is happening?" And I said, "Oh, well, people are parking at Disney Springs and then going to the parks without paying for parking, or they're parking at Disney Springs and then taking the boat or the buses over to a hotel and using resort facilities like pools, but other things as well. And the people at the resorts are waiting for a long time or feeling very crowded, and they can tell that it's not resort people, and so they're just cutting that down." And she's like, "Oh, so," and I was like, "Yeah, if you're staying on a Disney resort property, you can still go to all these places. You can never swim in pools that aren't your own, but people are going to Disney Springs and then taking the boat over to Port Orleans French Quarter and swimming in the pool and eating beignets. And then if you're staying at Port Orleans French Quarter, you can't find a seat around the pool and you're waiting 30 minutes for a beignet." And she's like, "Oh, so freeloaders." They're just cutting down on freeloaders. And I was like, "Correct. That's what's happening here." Now, I mean, that sounds a little harsh. I'm sure there are people listening who are like, "Oh, but I'm an annual pass member and like blah 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 blah." Yeah, totally, totally. There are totally people that are not staying on Disney property that have done these things, not about the pool thing, but, like, done these things where it's been fine and you've, taken up very little space. But the thing with a lot of the social media and content creators is that they're like, here's a hack, blah, 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 blah. And then it gets so big. And so now it's getting in the way of people's hotel experiences. And Disney does so many surveys, they can see that. And they're just trying to make the hotel experience better for the people that are paying this additional premium for staying at Disney hotel properties, which I'm going to talk about actually in the next question as well. So she was like, okay, so they're just like cutting down people taking advantage of free things that like they didn't pay for. Because the thing about the transportation systems and all that stuff is like that's all paid for by the people who are staying in the hotels. So if it's taking you an hour to get on the boat because there's so many people there that are just doing it for fun, then you're paying for a service that you're not getting, and then you might not come back and pay for that service. And so they're just trying to make the experience of staying in the Walt Disney World Resort property better for the people who are already staying on the property, but not necessarily at that hotel. So if you're at Disney Springs and you're staying at the Grand Floridian, you can take the boat over to Port Orleans French Quarter and get a beignet. That's totally fine. But if you are not staying on one of the hotels, if you're not staying on the property, then that is not a service that is available to you because you haven't paid for that service through resort fees. For those of you who are Patreon members, no, I do have some other things to say about solo travel and pools and things like that. So you can become a Patreon member to know about that. But, the thing about solos is that you are just one person. When it's a family of 4 or 5, or it's a bridal party or a bachelor party or, a graduation party, and there's all these big groups and everything like that, you have 3 or 4 groups of 3 to 5 people, and all of a sudden, that's a lot of people, right? And when you're solo, there are a lot of other things that you can do that doesn't take away from anyone else's experience. So I'm thinking, for example, about the fire escapes at Contemporary Resort. So as a solo, you can go around the Contemporary Resort and watch the fireworks from Magic Kingdom, and it's really, really wonderful. But if you have a family of 4 and then a bridal party of 5, and then a graduation group of another 5. All of a sudden now you have, what, 14 people up there, all having fun and having a good time and like wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But all of a sudden it's very loud and very rowdy and all that stuff. But when you're one person, you can experience that without taking advantage, not taking advantage, without taking the space from other people, right? And so there's something really special about solo travel. And like another tip that I really love is again the fire escapes at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And 3 cast members told me that on 3 separate trips. And now it's one of my favorite things. You go into the hotel and you go to the very, very end of any of the rooms, like not the rooms, but the actual hotel hallways, like where the rooms are. You go to the very, very end, you go down the fire escape, and you're going to have a private, amazing view of the animals. But you tell, again, a family of 5 that, it's going to be a thing that's going to be taken away really quickly because people are going to people. But solos are going to solo and bring some of that magic and hopefully, not ruin it for everybody. Did anyone see that thing? Was it last week that a kid climbed up on the rocks at Animal Kingdom Lodge and just like went down into the animal enclosure? Like, gosh, people just can ruin things, right? Anyway, the last question is that a friend from university got in touch with me and she said, we are booking our last minute August trip, and there isn't any room availability through the promotion that we're using. Have you ever stayed at Swan and Dolphin before, and would you recommend that? And she said that staying at Art of Animation was another option, but it was $1,000 more. So look, I've stayed at Swan once, and I was talking with Emmy. We did a solo story together, and we both talked about how we left the hotel crying and went to Pop Century afterwards. I've been there once, and I will not stay there again. A lot of people love it, and there's so many reasons to love the Swan and Dolphin. It is like deluxe perks, but often you can get it for moderate prices. There's balconies, walkable to Hollywood Studios and Epcot. You can see the fireworks from Epcot, and a lot of people really, really, like, love it. Great. I do not wanna take that away from them, but they are not Disney hotels, and they do not have any Disney magic. The staff members aren't cast members, they're just staff members. There's actually one person, their name is Elijah. You might have seen them. I think it's like the World of Elijah. You might have seen them on social media. They have a lot of like cool gender bending cosplay. They work at the Swan and Dolphin and they've gotten like, employee of the year numerous times. Like I'm sure a lot of people have had like, are really amazing at Swan and Dolphin, but they're not cast members and they're not trained, they're not Disney trained. So when I arrived at the Swan and Dolphin, I was so excited. This was right after COVID. I was so excited to be back at Disney World. And the guy at the front desk, like, really couldn't care less. He did not match my energy. I was like, okay, well, like, how can I do this or how do I do that? And he's like, oh, I don't know. That's a Disney thing. Like Disney, like we're not Disney. Disney doesn't care about us. And then he's like, we don't even get any promotions as like staff members. And I want to be like, what do I care? Like, this is my first 10 minutes at your hotel. What do I care about the discounts you as a staff member may not get? Like it was such a terrible way to like greet me essentially. The rooms are fine. They're fine. They're great. They look nice, right? They look like any other hotel that you would get anywhere else. But when I wanna walk into my Disney hotel, I wanna, like, see Disney stuff, and maybe it's these subtle touches that you get at a deluxe resort. Maybe it's really in your face that you get at a value resort, but I wanna feel like I'm at Disney, and I just walked in, and I just felt like I was at a, regular type of hotel because it is. It's just on the Walt Disney World property. One of the reasons why I love doing solo travel to Disney is because of the Magic Bands and that because I can charge everything to the Magic Band. So especially as a Canadian, this is before I had my credit cards on my phone, but I don't need to bring cash. I don't need to bring my wallet. I don't need to bring my credit card with me because I can charge everything on the Magic Band. But what the Magic Band does is that it's charging it back to your room. So if you're not staying in a room on the Walt Disney World property, there's nothing for you to have the Magic Band for, nothing at all. So when this very lovely person at the front desk, explained that to me, I was like, and he explained it like I was an idiot for even thinking I could use a magic band. I was like, oh, see, it's like taking away from the magic, right? Like, I'm not using a magic band. I'm not walking to the room where it like feels like Disney. I am not getting good service right here. Like, I don't feel like anybody cares about me. We also, my mother and I, on that trip back from COVID, we were actually hoping to extend the trip by a couple days, but it depended on if we could get a different flight out and all this stuff. So I said that to this guy at the counter, like, we might stay a few extra days. Like, how would that work? And he said, come and check with us the morning you're supposed to check out, and we can let you know if you can stay in the room. And I was like, that is that's terrible. That's terrible advice. Like, what if we can't? So where are we gonna stay for those 2 nights, you know? Like, it just felt so icky. It felt icky is a strong is a strong adjective. The right adjective is normal. It just felt like a very normal experience when I am there for something not normal. I'm there for something extraordinary. I'm there for something magical. And on that trip, I lost my credit card because I wasn't used to bringing it with me. And it was such a bummer to go back to the hotel because I didn't feel like anybody cared for me. Like, when I walk into a Walt Disney World hotel, well, first, I usually am taking transportation there, so I have all those cast members. I walk into the hotel and I'm greeted by somebody in the lobby. If I don't go through the lobby, then I often will see a cast member who's doing maintenance or housekeeping, and they'll say hello to me and, like, all of that stuff, and, we would walk into this hotel at the end of every day, and we wouldn't see any staff members at all. And it really felt like nobody cared if we were there. And that's not why I go to Disney. So when I told my friend all of this, and I said, but a lot of people love it and you might love it, but I won't go because there's nothing magical there for me. But $1,000 extra to stay at Art of Animation, that's a lot. And there's something about Art of Animation that I don't like the rooms whenever I see them. I just don't feel like they're for me. I feel like they're for families. And I was like, that's a lot of extra money. So I told her, try it, but keep your expectations of magic very low. And so I would say the same thing to you. I would say stay at the Walt Disney World Resort property, stay in those hotels because by and large, when you are going solo, there is a greater element of like safety and care and being in the bubble that people who go solo seem to really like. That's the reason why they're going solo, to tie it into those first couple questions. And, you know, I would just say stay on property. I know it's expensive, but to me, that additional premium is worth it. That's why I go. When I think about going to Disney and staying at like an $89 hotel in Orlando and then taking the shuttles into the parks or taking Uber into the parks, I'm like, "Oh, no. That's not appealing at all. Because when I go to Walt Disney World Resort solo, I'm not going to just go to the parks. I'm going for the full experience, and staying on the property in a Disney hotel is part of that. And, to just tie it back into the Swan and Dolphin, to me, those hotels aren't part of that Disney magic. I know a lot of people disagree, and I know there's good deals, and I know it's a great location. I know all that stuff, but I would just rather stay at All-Star Sports. I mean, obviously, I would much rather stay at a deluxe resort, but if it's between not going to Disney at all or staying at the Swan and Dolphin or staying off property or staying at All-Star Sports, I would be like, "Yeah, let's just do All-Star Sports again." Really, I would really do that. Anyway, this is so fun to learn about what you guys are thinking about. I'm happy to answer more questions in the future. I thought maybe people would ask questions about me because there's this other podcast that I listen to, and they had a Patreon where they allowed people to, like, call in and ask questions, and then they had an episode where they were just answering people's questions, and those questions were all about them, but they also were pretty, like, quiet about their own identities, and so I think maybe and it was, like, a couple who were talking, and I think people were really intrigued by, like, the dynamics of the couple. So, I'm happy to answer any questions about myself as well, but, I think I probably already share enough in the podcast. All right. So next week, we're a little off schedule because I missed a week. But next week is going to be this great episode with Sometimes Castles. And they're talking about the Chalk Walk. I think that's what it's called at Disneyland, which is a really great charitable initiative. And if you want to support them or join their team, you can do that. So that is next week. And then there's going to be some great interviews with Ashley Kraft and other stuff about hotels. And I'm really excited for the summer. The summer has opened up a lot more for me than I originally had anticipated in the spring, but I'm still going to be a full-time auntie taking care of my 13-year-old nephew and my 9-year-old niece for the next couple weeks. So I hope to have all the episodes up in time, but if they don't, it's because I went from just taking care of my cats to all of a sudden taking care of like a teenager and a tween. All right, everyone, until next time. Bye. Hey Solos, it's Samantha. As we move into our third year of the podcast, please continue to support the podcast by liking, reviewing, subscribing on any and all of the platforms that this streams: Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. Becoming a Patreon member is also an option and also just a wonderful way to support me and the podcast. Much appreciated to all the members, both free and paid. I can't wait to continue making content for you as we move into our third year.